My name is Tina Anderson, 24 years old, and the night my family finally cast me out was Christmas Eve. The living room glowed with strings of cheap blinking lights, their colors flashing across the polished table where a ham sat untouched at the center. My mother carved it into thin slices with mechanical precision, while my father leaned back in his chair, his face shadowed by the dim light. For a moment, the scene looked almost normal, the kind of warm holiday memory families like to keep, but I knew better. My younger sister, Madison, 16, sat across from me. She gave me a small, hopeful smile, as though silently urging me to believe that maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. But I had lived too long in this house to expect kindness. Dad cleared his throat. That sound always made my stomach tighten like a warning bell before the blow. He set down his fork and fixed me with a look that was sharper than the carving knife in Mom's hand. "Tina," he said, "we need to talk about your living situation." I froze, fork hovering above my plate. "Okay," I replied, my voice steady though my chest tightened. He didn't hesitate. "You're a burden to this family. You need to move out immediately." The words sliced through the air, final and merciless. I had prepared for many kinds of rejection, but hearing it out loud on Christmas night felt like watching years of quiet sacrifices dissolve in an instant. I turned to Mom, waiting for her to defend me, to soften his words, to say anything. But she kept cutting the ham into smaller and smaller pieces, her eyes fixed on the plate as if none of this involved her. It was Madison who broke first. Her fork clattered against the plate. "Dad, that's not fair. Tina pays for everything. Electricity, internet, water, food. You can't just—" "That's enough, Madison," he barked, his tone sharp enough to make her flinch. I caught her wide, desperate eyes and forced a small smile, as if to tell her I was okay, even though I wasn't. "I'll pack tonight," I said quietly. "I'll be gone in the morning." Dad gave a single nod, the kind of nod he used when someone passed him the salt. Cold, businesslike, as though he had erased me already. I swallowed hard, fighting the lump in my throat. Upstairs, my room waited, filled with the remnants of a life I had tried to make feel like home. That night, I would pack it all into 2 suitcases and leave quietly like a guest, overstaying her welcome. But as I looked around the table one last time at my mother's silence, my father's indifference, Madison's trembling defiance, I felt something shift inside me. A seed of resolve took root, quiet but unyielding. They thought I was nothing but a burden. They were about to find out what it really meant to lose me. That night, I packed in silence. My room, once cluttered with the pieces of my life, suddenly looked hollow as I filled 2 suitcases with clothes, my laptop, a few books, and framed photos that meant something to me. I left behind things too heavy to carry, too tangled in memory to salvage. Madison slipped in, her eyes red. She hugged me so tightly I felt her shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "This isn't fair. None of it." "It's not your fault," I said, stroking her hair like I used to when she was little. "Promise me you'll be okay." She pulled back, biting her lip. "Where will you go?" "Jessica said I can stay with her for a while." Madison nodded, though her voice cracked. "Please don't disappear. Call me." "I will." The next morning, I carried my suitcases down the stairs. Mom shuffled in the kitchen, avoiding my eyes, while Dad was already gone. Neither said goodbye. Madison trailed behind me all the way to the front door, like she couldn't bear to let go. The taxi idled outside. As the driver loaded my bags into the trunk, I pulled out my phone and opened the apps I had managed quietly for years: electricity, internet, water, streaming services. One by one, I canceled them. Each click felt like a thread snapping free. It was strange. I wasn't shouting, wasn't slamming doors. I was just cutting them off cleanly and without drama. The revenge wasn't loud. It was silent, almost surgical. The drive to Portland stretched on for hours. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass and watched the gray sky blur past. I thought about the years I had lived as their invisible backbone, paying for their warmth, their food, their comfort, and how none of it had earned me love. When Jessica opened her apartment door, she didn't ask for explanations. She just pulled me into a hug. "You okay?" she murmured. "I will be," I answered. Her studio was small, only one room, with a kitchenette and a bathroom, but it was warm and clean. It smelled faintly of vanilla from a candle burning on the counter. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lift from my chest. "You can stay as long as you need," Jessica said, helping me drag the suitcases inside. I sank onto her couch. Relief washed over me, but beneath it was a quiet storm. Grief, rage, disbelief, all tangled together. I didn't feel like a burden anymore. I felt free. But in the stillness of that night, staring at the ceiling in a borrowed blanket, I had the sharpest thought. They're not going to let me go this easily. 3 days passed in quiet routine. Jessica went to work, and I filled the silence by sending out resumes, scrolling through job listings, trying to convince myself I was starting fresh. At night, we'd eat takeout and watch TV, her laughter a steady reminder that not everyone saw me as disposable. Then my phone lit up. 7 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, a flood of texts from Madison. The screen buzzed again, vibrating so hard it slipped against the couch cushion. My chest tightened as I finally opened Madison's messages. Tina, you need to call Mom back. The power's out. Dad's furious. He keeps asking what you did. Please just call them. The phone rang again. Mom. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice came out shrill, panicked. Tina, what did you do? What do you mean my voice stayed level though my pulse raced? The electricity's off, the internet, the water, everything. What did you do? I closed my eyes. I canceled the accounts. They were all in my name. I've been paying them for years. Silence. A silence so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she whispered, almost to herself, those were in your name. Yes. I thought your father. He wasn't. It was me. Her panic sharpened into accusation. Well, you need to turn them back on. No, I said flatly. Tina, we need those things. We can't live like this. You told me I was a burden. Dad told me to leave immediately. So I left. The bills were mine. I stopped paying them. That's all. Her voice cracked raw with desperation. But we need. Then Dad can set up new accounts. He can pay for them himself. It's not my problem anymore. Tina, please. I hung up. My hands shook as I set the phone down, but a strange calm followed. For once, I wasn't the one begging. That night, I stared at the ceiling of Jessica's studio, listening to the faint hum of her heater. My parents' house was cold and dark, and for the first time, they were feeling what it was like to live without me, holding everything together. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. People who had lived off me for years wouldn't accept that loss quietly. They would claw, scheme, and rage to pull me back or to destroy me for leaving. And the storm was only beginning. 2 mornings later, I woke up to a string of emails from my bank. Suspicious login attempt detected. Unsuccessful login attempt blocked. Please verify recent activity. My stomach dropped. I hadn't logged in overnight. I grabbed my phone and called Madison immediately. She answered on the second ring, whispering, Tina, I can't talk long. Dad's been on the computer all morning. He's using Mom's old notebook. He keeps typing in passwords, swearing when they don't work. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. Are you saying he's trying to get into my accounts? Yeah, he says you owe us. He says you can't just run away. A bitter laugh slipped out before I could stop it. I don't owe him anything. I've been paying his life for years. I know, Madison whispered. I just wanted you to know. I hung up and immediately set to work. New passwords for everything, banking, email streaming, even social media. 2-factor authentication wherever I could. I called my bank to lock down my accounts, telling them not to allow changes unless I verified by phone. When Jessica came home from work, she found me at her kitchen table surrounded by papers, my laptop, open phone buzzing. What happened? She asked, setting down her bag. My dad tried to break into my bank accounts. Her face went pale. Jesus, your own father. I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. My throat burned. I changed everything. He can't get in now. But I can't believe he even... Jessica crouched beside me, her hand on mine. Tina, this isn't just about money anymore. This is about control. He can't stand that you took it away. Her words sank into me like stones. She was right. For years, they hadn't just depended on me. They'd fed off me, my money, my silence, my obedience. Without me, they were starving. And starving people are dangerous. That night, as I tried to sleep, I couldn't shake the sense that eyes were on me, even in the safety of Jessica's small apartment. The feeling was irrational, maybe, but it clawed at me. If Dad could try to break into my bank accounts, what else might he try to break into? The walls felt thinner, the locks felt weaker. I realized with a cold certainty that this wasn't over. It happened in the evening, just as Jessica and I were chopping vegetables for dinner. The sudden pounding on the door rattled the walls, heavy, violent fists slamming again and again. Tina, my father's voice roared through the hallway. Open this door right now. Jessica's knife froze midair. My own hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped to the cutting board. You owe us, he bellowed, each word punctuated by another crash of his fist. You can't just leave us to starve, you selfish brat. I felt my body go rigid, my legs rooted to the spot. This wasn't a phone call or an email. He was here. Jessica snapped out of it first. She grabbed her phone, whispering, I'm calling the police. More pounding. The neighbors' doors opened, voices rising in confusion. Someone shouted, "Sir, calm down." "This is none of your business," Dad snarled back, his voice breaking with rage. I couldn't move. My father's rage had always lived within the walls of our house, a storm I had learned to endure in silence. But here, outside Jessica's safe little apartment, it felt feral dangerous in a way I hadn't imagined. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers appeared in the hallway, their presence a wall of calm against the chaos. "Sir, you need to step back," one of them ordered. But Dad wouldn't. He kept shouting, his face red, spittle flying. "She's my daughter. She owes me. After everything I did for her." The officers didn't wait any longer. They cuffed him right there in front of half the building, dragging him out as he thrashed and yelled my name. The door slammed shut behind them. Silence flooded the apartment, broken only by the shaky rhythm of my breathing. Jessica touched my shoulder. "You okay?" I swallowed hard. "No. He knows where I live now." The phone buzzed in my pocket. "Madison." I answered, my voice trembling. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Mom just got a call. Dad's been arrested." "Tina, are you okay?" "He showed up here," I said, my voice flat. There was a pause, then her voice cracked. "Tina, Mom's been selling your stuff. She pawned your laptop, your camera, and they took your car. They used the spare key." A cold weight sank into my stomach. "They took my car." I tried to stop them, she said, crying. They wouldn't listen. I closed my eyes. My father had called me a burden, and now my mother was stripping away the last of what was mine. If they couldn't control me, they would destroy everything I had left. And I knew then I had to go back. Jessica drove while I sat stiff in the passenger seat, my fists clenched so tightly my nails dug crescents into my palms. The streets blurred past in silence, the only sound the hum of the tires on wet asphalt. When we pulled up to my parents' house, the place looked hollow. The windows were black, no light shone inside. Only the faint flicker of a candle glowed behind the curtains. Without electricity, the house felt like a mausoleum. I knocked hard. The door creaked open, and there stood my mother. Her face looked older than it had just a week ago, crease-drawn shadows etched under her eyes. Behind her, the air smelled of wax and dampness. "I want my car keys," I said, voice steady but sharp. Her eyes darted away. The car was just sitting there. You weren't using it. "It's my car," I snapped. "Give me the keys." She disappeared into the dark hallway, footsteps muffled, then returned with the spare set. She dropped them into my hand like they were burning her fingers. "Where's my laptop?" I asked. Her expression flickered, but she didn't answer. "Madison told me you pawned it, and my camera. Where are they?" Her voice cracked defensive. "We needed money, Tina. You left us with nothing." My breath caught rage flaring. "Nothing. I paid your bills for years. Fed you. Kept the house alive. You kicked me out, called me a burden, and now you're stealing from me." Her lips trembled, but she didn't meet my eyes. I pulled out my phone and without hesitation dialed the police. I gave them her name, the address, the details. Mom's face went white as the words "theft report" left my mouth. "You called the police on your own mother." "You stopped being my mother when you stole from me," I said coldly. The 20 minutes that followed felt like hours. Jessica and I sat in the car headlights illuminating the front of the house until red and blue lights finally splashed across the dark street. The officers went inside. When they emerged, my mother was between them, her wrists cuffed. Neighbors peeked from porches and windows as she was led out head bowed, refusing to look at me. For a moment, guilt pierced me, sharp, almost unbearable. But then I remembered the pawnshop receipt where my laptop used to be. My car gone from the garage. The silence at Christmas dinner as I was cast out. The guilt turned to steel. Jessica whispered, "You okay?" I nodded once, though my voice shook. "This is only the beginning. If they can do this, they'll do worse." And in that moment, I realized the fight wasn't about money or bills or even betrayal. It was about survival. The following day, I called the non-emergency police line. My voice wavered as I explained everything, how my father had shown up at my friend's apartment, screaming how my mother had pawned my belongings, how I needed to collect what was left of my life from their house. An officer met us there in the evening. A woman in her 30s, her tone firm but calm, as if she'd seen hundreds of families like mine unravel. She nodded at me. "You're Tina." "Yes," I said, clutching a trash bag for whatever I could salvage. "Let's get your things quickly and keep it peaceful." The house loomed in darkness again, candlelight flickering inside. My mother sat on the couch, eyes fixed on nothing. She didn't move or speak as I passed. Upstairs, my old room looked stripped bare, drawers, half open, the closet emptier than I remembered. Still, I stuffed garbage bags with whatever remained clothes, Old books, framed photos, yearbooks that smelled faintly of dust and childhood. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard the crunch of tires outside. The front door burst open. My father. The instant his eyes locked on me, his face went crimson. "What the hell are you doing here?" The officer stepped between us. "Sir, she's here to collect her property, that's all." "This is my house," he roared, "and these are her belongings. Step back." He glared past the officer at me, his voice trembling with fury. "You had your own mother arrested. You're nothing but an ungrateful little parasite. We raised you. We fed you. I paid you back." I cut in, my voice rising for the first time. "I paid the bills, the food, the internet, everything. And when I stopped, the whole house collapsed. You called me a burden, Dad. You told me to leave, and I did." His jaw tightened, his fist clenched. For a second, I thought he might lunge at me. The officer's hand hovered near her taser. "Sir, that's enough. Step back now." His chest heaved rage spilling out of him, but he stayed in the kitchen, glowering as I carried bag after bag to Jessica's car. On my last trip, I paused at the doorway. Madison stood upstairs, framed in the glow of her bedroom lamp. One hand lifted in a small wave. I waved back, throat tightening. Outside, the officer stayed until every bag was in Jessica's trunk. "You did the right thing," she told me quietly. I nodded, though my chest felt hollow. The house I had grown up in looked foreign now, dark hostel, emptied of any trace of belonging. That night at a red light, I pulled out my phone. I blocked both my parents' numbers. Then I opened the social media accounts I had once created for them, Facebook old emails, and deleted them, every trace of connection severed. Jessica glanced over. "You okay?" I exhaled slowly. "I will be." The next week, I found a studio apartment tiny with peeling paint and a window that faced an alley, but it was mine. I moved in with my 2 suitcases and the garbage bags of salvaged life. For the first time, I could close a door and know no one on the other side had the power to call me a burden. And in the quiet of that space, Madison whispered her promise. 2 more years. When I turn 18, I'll leave too. I swore to her with every fiber of me that I would be waiting. Time has a way of stretching and collapsing all at once. Madison's last 2 years at home crawled by for her, but for me they passed in a blur of rebuilding. I worked long hours, earned promotions, saved money. I learned the feel of silence that wasn't hostile, how to decorate a space that belonged to me alone. I even adopted a cat who curled at my feet at night, as if to remind me, you are not alone anymore. The day Madison turned 18, she called me from her own phone, no longer afraid of being caught. "I'm leaving today," she said, her voice trembling with equal parts fear and excitement. "Do you need me to come get you?" I asked. "No, I only have 2 bags. Sarah's family said I can stay until college starts." 2 hours later, she called again. "I'm out." I walked right out the door, and no one stopped me. I closed my eyes, a smile breaking through. "You're free." That fall, I helped her set up her dorm thrift store desk, fresh sheets, a secondhand laptop to replace the one Mom pawned. She stood in her tiny new room, glowing with a joy I hadn't seen in years. I hugged her, whispering, "You did it. We did it." From then on, Madison thrived. Every Sunday, she called with stories about classes, friends, and the life she was building. She was happy. That was all I had ever wanted for her. Meanwhile, my parents' world crumbled. Without me paying the bills, the bank foreclosed on their house. They bounced between relatives and shabby rentals until even family turned them away. Madison once described their apartment as a cave with mold and broken heat. Sometimes she asked me gently, "Do you ever think about helping them?" "No," I would answer. They had their chance. They chose to call me a burden instead of a daughter. And it was true. Their attempts at reconciliation came in waves. Messages from unknown numbers, fake friend requests, letters with no return address. "We love you. We want to talk." I deleted them all. Because I remembered Christmas dinner. I remembered my father's voice, sharp and final. I remembered my mother's silence. And I remembered the way they tried to strip me of everything once I walked away. I chose not to look back. Now, years later, my life is full. My own apartment, friends who feel like family, laughter at dinner tables where I am wanted. Madison graduated university, and I was there in the audience, cheering louder than anyone else. Our parents weren't there. They never even knew. Sometimes in rare moments, I wonder if they ever regret it, if sitting in their dim little apartment, they ever realize what they lost. But then the thought fades because their regret is no longer my responsibility. They had 24 years to love me, 24 years to show me I wasn't a burden. They chose otherwise. So I chose freedom. I chose myself, and I never looked back.